I wrote down "I'm lost" several times, and I am happy to admit that perhaps I am unworthy of being the host of a show in which we are meant to unpack these episodes, because I just do not have the mental ability to untie these knots.
Hello and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Recap Freecast. I am back. My name is Anita Sarkeesian. I will be hosting you through this epic season finale of this show. And joining me, like a Klingon cleave ship to battle the absolute what the fuckery of what the hell we just watched, is Commander Ebony Adams.
What's up, everybody? Let's get into it. There's no time to waste.
There's no time to waste. But before we waste the time.
I just said there's no time to waste.
Yeah,
Anita.
is that how words work? I don't know.
No.
You know, we got a Patreon, so support it. It's at patreon.com/femfreak. You get things that are fun and cool, and we get your money, and you help us keep making this shit. So please join us there.
God, you are the worst salesperson.
I really did that way worse than I thought. I wasn't. I didn't mean.
You give us your money, and we keep making the shit.
I mean,
who does that convince?
I mean, here's the thing. Like, I didn't mean to do it that bad. It just kind of rolled out of me just now. But also, like, let's be real. That's what the exchange is. That you give us money, and we give you creative, intelligent works.
Right. Well, that's better, though. Creative, intelligent works. You said we'll keep making the shit. that was the problem.
I mean, Ebony, sometimes.
Defense, you just got back from Europe where you've been away. I'm sure you're jet lagged. Not that if you were unjet lagged, this episode would have made any more sense, but, you know, whatever. We'll get into it.
I will tell you the parameters in which I watched the episode after you give us a summary of the episode.
Would a summary help?
I don't know. Honestly. How did they officially summarize this batshit bonkers banana soup?
Whoever is in charge of writing these summaries for the CBS All Access site probably threw their hands up and was just like, I gotta chunk the deuce on this because I don't know what I just watched. Okay, but officially they say, the USS Discovery battles against control in a fight not only for their lives, but for the future, with a little help from unexpected friends. Spock and Burnham discern vital new connections between the red signals, while Burnham faces one of life's harshest truths. The right decisions are often the hardest to make.
Man, that sounds so much more cohesive than the actual episode. All right, here's the thing, Ebony. I watched the last two episodes back to back, which, you know, is not a bad way to do it because it's a part one, part two. Yeah. But I also hadn't slept in 24 hours. Literally,
ideal circumstances all around.
Yeah, I got off a plane from London and then watched these episodes when I got home and then crashed out. So I had been awake for 24 hours by the time I got to it. And I was like, you know, maybe I'll rewatch it in the morning before we record. That didn't happen. My notes are the least organized notes I've ever taken for this show before.
What kind of psychedelic, you know, magic mystery tour of an experience was it watching these two episodes back to back, sleep deprived? I hope. I can't wait. Tell me more.
Okay,
tell me
so
more
first
about,
of all,
give me some of the notes. Just tell me, first of all, your impression. So last week had a great conversation. With Ali.
I'm sorry. I just listened to it. I didn't mean to cut you off. Please introduce it.
No, so we just had a fantastic conversation, both about kind of Star Trek in general. Ali is so fascinating to talk to, and I hope people find their way to his YouTube channel because he's just an incredibly smart guy. But so we talked about last week's episode, but we obviously had the benefit of giving the episode a little space.
Yeah.
So we've had a week to think about it. So I probably have different impressions than you do, having come to it with a Star Trek mini marathon, hopped up on whatever gluten-free, small batch, you know, Marcona almonds dipped in matcha you used to sustain yourself on your trip back from London. Tell me what you thought.
You say that as if You say that
That's
like
not
a joke
exactly what's
as
in
if
your
that's
bag
not
right
actually
now.
true.
I know you're thinking like, damn, that sounds good.
Yeah, I'm a bougie ass motherfucker. Anyways, that episode last week was so good. I really, really enjoyed it. So if y'all hadn't had a chance to check it out, I'm so thankful Ali was able to pop on.
God, he was great.
Yeah.
I could talk to him 24 hours a day.
Okay, so I this morning I mentioned to a friend that I was about to record this podcast, and he hasn't caught up on on season 2, and so he's like, "Is the season finale just as like bonkers as the season 1 finale?" And the way that I described it it is within the parameters of what season 1 set up, and the parameters of what season 2 set up. They are equally as bonkers. But like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, so season 2 is not quite as like, what in the goddamn insane world is this? But it is within the parameters of how they have set up the emotional stakes of season 2, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And I totally agree that in, their own ways, season 1 cranked it up to 11 and season 2 cranked it up to 11. And as you know, I like nothing more than a piece of media that will just be like, you know what? We're throwing everything at the wall. We're going to see what sticks. But I have to confess, I was completely baffled, starting at about the halfway point, by who was where.
Dude!
What was going on, what the implications were, who the allies were, why they were making some choices instead of others. I still was completely entertained, but at some point I just had to like completely let go of whatever final shreds I had of wanting to make sense.
I gotta
of things. And I was like, you know what? Just go for it.
Watching it sleep deprived, when you have a million questions, you're like, meh, it's fine. Because like when it ended, I was like, wait, what? What just happened? Huh? And then I was like, oh, I have a million questions. Could not. So I'm glad to hear that, because I was like, am I just too tired to keep up with what's going on? Because I was like, who's on what ship? Why are there, like, the medical bay was full of people, and that was Discovery?
This is what I'm saying. Like, I know, I was like, I thought that they evacuated Discovery, and then we had a core group of people who were like, no, Michael, we will go with you. We're a family. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. This group of like 10 people are like, we're taking Discovery into the future. We're going to handle this ship, whatever. But it seems as if Discovery's full complement is back on the ship.
Right.
Which seems
was it just
radically irresponsible. I feel like these people didn't really unpack what the implications of this journey through the wormhole that they all signed up for. And I was just like, I don't understand who's where and why.
No, I didn't either. It was, well, I gotta say, like, the moment that I realized that the entire episode, these 2 episodes, were going to be this giant battle, I was like, oh, obviously. Like, once it finally clicked, I was like, of course they are. But I was really disappointed to not have part 2 actually be going into the future. And I know that they wouldn't do that, because that's a whole nother thing that's not a closure.
Yeah, like that's season 3, right?
Exactly. But I was kind of like, I don't want this Star Wars shit right now, man. Like, I don't want this giant battle. And then they cut. You and Allie talked about like the pacing being really weird in terms of like going from fight battle to we're going to build this fucking suit that we know nothing about, that's only ever been done once in the past in an hour. And then also like these
I can't make a lasagna in an hour. These people are building a fucking time suit.
And then these like deep emotional moments that it was just like, it was very ping-pongy. You know, like you're just kind of like, oh, I'm sucked into, oh, wait, what? Oh, this. Oh, wait. Oh, emotions. Wait, what? Like, it was a little hard to like stay connected in this episode for me. Like, there were moments that I felt really like, oh God, this is sad. But then there were other moments when I'm like, they've already renewed for season 3, so Michael's not going to die. Like, the stakes were.
Although you'd be forgiven for thinking that she had been completely written out, because by the end, we end on a ship and the camera panning across a crew of mostly white people. And I was like, where's Discovery? Where's Michael? Like, is it, was fan reaction to Pike and the new Spock so, high that they were like, okay, we gotta shift the focus a little bit, give the people what they want. But let's start with things that I loved. I really want to get your take. So I'm so glad you brought up the space battles. You've talked before about the editing of the show and the sort of composition of like action shots and things that you were unsatisfied by. I have to say, I've been really pleased with, and I'm blanking on his name because I'm the worst. I think his first name is Olatunde, but one of the producers of this show was the director of the final episode. And I have really loved his directing work. And the first half of the episode, I really thought like, the tensions were high and were effectively conveyed. I liked the way the space battle was composed. I really felt that I was in it, but I wasn't confused by what, was going on.
I was so confused. When they actually showed, like, outside in space, I had no idea whose ships belonged to who. Like,
See, I found it pretty easy to follow. And typically I have a hard time in action scenes like this, in battle scenes, because, and so maybe it was just, I could have been watching it through rose-colored glasses, but I really did feel like the first part of the episode was fantastic. And then as the battle, as we sort of retreat from the actual, torpedoes firing and everything, and then we start talking about, like Burnham actually gets in the suit and Leland makes his way over to Discovery. Is he on? Yeah, he's on Discovery.
I have so many questions about that, Ebony. I have so many questions about Leland being on Discovery.
And where. But, okay, going back to what you were saying about emotional moments and then those being pulled away from too quickly or being resolved too quickly. When Burnham finally does her red lights dance and goes into the future and then comes back and she tells Spock, okay, you got to get out of here now. You got to get back. And he's like, I can't, my ship's screwed, whatever. Right. And we think, holy shit. Like, that's a tough moment, right? And it does in that moment what Star Trek Discovery and what Star Trek at large has done so well, which is give us those moments of just like overwhelming sacrifice. And you're like, okay, I know Spock's got to get out of this some kind of way. But in this moment, I truly believe that he is about to give his life. He's not going to make it out of this. Right. And then like mere minutes later, he simply beamed aboard the Enterprise. And I was like, wait, I wanted more. I wanted, I wanted some tears, more tears. I wanted us to sit longer with like the implications of,
I had the exact same feeling. Like, yeah. I was like, and we've talked a lot about, like, I love Spock and Michael in these iterations and their relationships and their bonding and every moment with them, like being like, I love you in all of these other kinds of words, just fucking worked on me. And that scene, that exact scene, I was like, yeah, we know Spock needs to survive, but also like maybe not well. Like it might be difficult and Michael might not know that he survived and
exactly
right, and all this stuff. And then they're like, oh, we just beamed you on board. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, stuff is too easy when it should be more difficult, and things are much more difficult than they should be when they could be easy. Yeah. When Leland beams over to Discovery, there are moments where he is like alone in certain areas. And I'm like, couldn't you just take away the life support from that? Like, he is essentially an AI in a meat sack, as they say. Like, couldn't you just flood that area with toxic gas as you've done in other like Star Trek episodes, or just like remove the air from that? It's like, why is this so hard? And also, if the sphere data is so consumed with staying alive, with its own survival, how is it that it is allowing itself to almost be destroyed in this space battle?
Okay.
Like, it won't allow the ship to to go through self-destruction, but it will allow the crew to just come back and take over again?
Man, Ebony,
I don't know why I'm asking you these questions, because I know you don't have answers.
No, and I feel like that's the thing is, I was like, as we go to record this, it's just going to be a bunch of fucking questions, because like, I feel like the amount of questions they raised makes the season finale unsatisfying. And that's disappointing to me, right? Like, I don't like this huge climactic battle ending in the way that it was done. But like the stuff with Leland. So, okay, the sphere data is an AI that protects itself. So it's sentient.
It's approaching.
I mean, like, how does it,
sapiens,
like, it doesn't, I know that Leland in Control is sentient, but like the sphere data can now like not, like I could see it maybe not being able to delete itself. I don't know. I could buy that justification, but that it could control the ship all of a sudden. Like, is it learning and growing? Like, it all seemed very convenient. And then Leland beams on board. And I'm like, well, it's over now because even if you go into the future, Control will still have access to the ship. So then they kill Leland, or they demagnetize Control.
I didn't know what was happening.
And I was like,
not know what
but
was
all
happening.
of those
they use space magnets.
And then all of those pieces are around. But like, does that mean that Control is dead? Because that doesn't make sense to me either. And then Control then is all of these pieces on the ship, which are harder to contain. Like, Ebony?
Anita, I have no answers. I have absolutely no answers. I wrote down I'm lost several times, and I am happy to admit that perhaps I am unworthy of being the host of a show in which we are meant to unpack these episodes, because I just do not have the mental ability to untie these knots.
All right, so in the same breath, I love the, like, all of these different groups coming in to help them, right? So
I love that.
That was beautiful.
I love anytime like the underdogs, like there's a fight and you think there's no way they can get out of it. And then on the horizon, people show up and they're like, in this moment, we are brothers. Like that kind of feeling. I'm a sucker for it. I could love it. So when the Klingons showed up and L'Rell, I laughed so hard when she said, and I thought my chancellorship would be bloodless, as she's like maniacally laughing. I died. And I had a friend over who was like just watching over my shoulder and did not understand. Like, she rolled her eyes and I was like, no, but this is so L'Rell and wonderful. And I loved everything about that moment. Like, the Klingon and today
sort of
is a good day to die. God, it's so good.
Yeah. And then you have Saru's sister, Sarana, show up, which...
I was bored by her. I was glad the Bowel fighter show up, but...
I loved what that meant.
Yeah.
I loved that. But, getting to your question that you asked last week, is that they can only do ship-to-ship communication. So there's no way that she could have gotten that fucking message.
Listen, don't ask. Don't ask, okay?
But, okay.
We just have to accept. The better question would be, how is... we got a real Battlefield Earth situation happening here, where Sarana, who has until this point lived on like a pre-industrial amphibious, sort of life, is able to pilot a spaceship. Anita,
I'm just saying, if you can build a time-traveling suit in an hour, then they can build entire intergalactic space travel in maybe like 10 days.
Are you what? I know. This is I'm like, I don't, you guys, oh my God.
I mean, I kind of was like,
I'm the worst.
They probably,
I have nothing more to say than, oh my God.
I mean, the Bowel fighters and Sarana probably took over the technology that was already on the planet. So that was how I justified that, is like, they didn't have to develop new technology because the species that was oppressing them already had that.
Right. No, I understand that Sarana took over the technology. What I'm saying is it would be the equivalent, but times a million, if you suddenly pick someone up from like medieval England and then we're like, I want you to ride this motorcycle. And you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Like they have no frame of reference for this. And yet in a few days, they're going to be able to not only wrap their heads around this technology, but master it enough to go piloting and fight a space battle. Come on.
You know what editing trope I actually really hate? And it's effective in some ways, like emotionally effective, but I felt like it was a waste of time. Where you could have actually explained some of the shit or done something more, is when at the end of a movie, they show you the shots from the previous parts of the movie to instill emotional connection. So we see this in everything. I was rewatching A Star Is Born on the plane, and they did that where like after he dies, spoilers, whatever. They cut back to all of the moments in which they were happy. And you're like, yeah, I know. I just saw it like 30 minutes ago. It's so in this, when they go to every single point where they found a signal and show that it's Michael in the suit with the signal. I was like, yeah, you literally explained it. And then now you're showing it to us again when we've already seen it. Like, come on. Or like, at least do it faster. But it was every single fucking point, man.
Listen, a show that then is going to spend like a smooth 5 literal minutes walking us through the Star Trek military tribunal at the end of the episode when you're like, yeah, we get it. We get it. Okay. Number one, Pike and Spock are, have committed to engaging in this cover up so that, Discovery can go on and do it. We get it. Speed it up here. Dude, you could have cut this a little bit better.
I got another question.
I have no answer.
I mean, I feel like this whole episode is going to be highly illogical, and then we'll have a segment for like 2 things that I actually thought were sweet. But I don't. So, since when can Michael see the future?
Okay, since the last episode when she touched the time crystal, there is no explanation for how it works. But because we're in a universe in which things like time crystals exist, I just went with it.
Fine.
Yeah, and then you just have to go with it.
Yeah, fine. I guess I'll take it. Queen Poe is a delight.
She is a delight, and what was going on with her? Whatever they did with her
amazing.
Eyes, like when wasn't that awesome?
Yeah. Which reminded me of the costume design in the eyes of the fish fucking movie that I didn't like.
Shape of Water.
Yes. Which shout out to our podcast
shout
friend.
Out to Caro.
Well, no, shout
out to Caro because it is a very Caro movie.
It's such a Caro movie. I mean, anything where people love each other is a Caro movie. But no, because Saru plays that character. Anyways, I loved it, and I loved her and Tilly, and I really want that. Like, I want a comic about them doing science together.
As another addition to the incredibly, incredibly smart, kind of weird, ultimately badass female contingent of Star Trek Discovery, I'm here for Poe. She's so young, and so that kind of tweeness that comes sometimes with the representation of, young women occasionally, is not my bag, but for the most part, I absolutely loved her. And yeah, the way she looks with those awesome eyes. Again, this show, you have to say, apart from everything else, this show looks amazing. It looks amazing. When Michael goes through like that time jelly, the first time through the hole, and like the light, she's like in that literal space disco where the lights are hitting her. Come on, that was amazing.
I gotta say,
Anita, it was amazing. Do not disagree.
I gotta say, I'm always laughing at how big of a budget they have now, because like the fucking spacewalk shit, like when the I know you all made fun of this on the last episode, but like those the bridges that were made between the ships, like I loved that. And then when Leland was like, Giorgio's like, we've got like double the amount of ships you've got, and he's like, wanna bet? And then it goes and his whole ship turns into like a bunch of tiny ships. Like I loved all that shit.
I know.
It looked so cool and was so great.
And how about those little fat robots?
Okay. That actually, I was saving that because literally my favorite part of the whole episode are the Star Trek Discovery version of DRDs. For those of you who don't know what a DRD is, they come from the show Farscape, which is a wonderful show, and they like repair the ship. They're little robots. And when they popped up, and I was like,
I know.
Oh, and they're repairing the hull, and I was like, I love you. So much.
Little fat robot. I know.
So much. I want to see them in the ship and out of the ship. I really want them to be like Discovery's DRDs, where they're like a part of the show.
Me too. Big fan. And there are moments when you watch something and you're like, oh my God, I don't care if this ultimately will turn into like a Craven like merchandising grab. I'm going to buy one of those things.
Dude.
If there's an opportunity to get one, I'm going to get one.
If I do not want any more fucking bullshit plushies because I have so many and I don't know what to do with them, but I would die for a DRD plushie.
I know.
I love them. Okay, one relationship thing that I had a bit of a problem with was that I really loved in part 1 how Hugh and Paul were like, we just accept that we have changed and that we don't work together anymore and we're going to go do our things, and we still love each other and have a lot of affection. And like, that was so lovely to me. I fucking hated
and real.
In the second part where Hugh comes back and is really like, I love you. Because I think there's value to recognizing that humans do grow and change and relationships don't stay the same and that they do change. And like, not that I'm rooting against them, although Stamets is annoying and I don't know what Hugh sees in him, whatever. I just think that like the reality of that kind of the closure of we are just going to do our own things now because we don't vibe together anymore is so much stronger and more complicated and messier in a very genuine way than like, I don't want to do like, then Hugh just coming back all of a sudden.
I so wholeheartedly agree. And I would even take it, if ultimately they reconciled, having spent some time away from each other, I would have loved that too. I mean, I've talked a lot of shit about Stamets. Y'all know this. I've been apologetic, but ultimately I will do it till this show ends. And I've talked a lot of shit about the, Stamets-Culber relationship, but ultimately I do root for those two crazy kids. I love, even though I lie and say that I don't. But yes, the recognition that sometimes even if you love someone, that's not enough to sustain a relationship. Sometimes relationships don't work out. I felt like that was such a brave, heartbreaking choice and direction for the show to go in. And so in the same way that we don't spend enough time, wrestling with what would happen if Spock is actually in danger and may not make it out of this, we don't get to spend enough time emotionally dealing with, okay, this couple that we've invested, our care and love into, is breaking up. The next everything, every episode is a do-over, of those hard moments. And I was just like, you could have let this play out a little bit longer. Okay, say if Hugh had actually gone to Enterprise, and so Discovery, goes to the wormhole into the future, we know ultimately there's going to be some communication, or I assume there'll be some communication between our time period and their time, whatever, to have these two people sort of pining over each other, being sad, working to find their way to each other again. That could have been really poignant and good, but instead they're together again. Everything's a do-over, whatever.
Can I tell you the part that I hated the absolute most?
Yes.
When, what's the name of the security officer with the stuff that helps her breathe on her face? With the amazing hair?
Khan? Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I think it's Khan.
Yeah. When Giorgio says to her, would you like to join me in making Leland scream? And she says, yum, yum.
Yum, yum.
I hated that. Why did they do that?
Because we can never have nice things.
Dude,
because sometimes they have great directors, they have great production designers, but sometimes the writing, I don't know. I feel like they run out of writing before they can take another pass at the script.
I have several more questions. Am I allowed to ask them?
You can absolutely ask
All right.
them.
When they say control is neutralized, why do they still have to leave?
Okay, so this is probably the wrong answer. Feel free to write in at Ebony Aster, at FemFreak, and let me know I'm wrong. But my belief was that because the wormhole and the travel through had already been initiated when that was affected, the neutralization of Control, it was too late.
I don't think so. I think the logic is that Control will follow them no matter what in every iteration.
Yes, I was going to follow up and say that even if Control had been neutralized, the danger that data represents is still there. So it needs to be eliminated. It needs to be pulled from the timeline. So,
all right, here's my other question.
They were going to go anyway. Mm-hmm.
How does the ship and all of the apparently hundreds of people still on the ship travel through time without a suit?
Ask.
Is it the suit that opens?
I have no idea.
But is it the suit that opens the wormhole and then anything can go through the wormhole? Because they were worried about other things being sucked in. I think that's it. I think I just answered my question.
I think so. Maybe there was some flimflamery with, the Queen of Zahia and her big brain helping Discovery go to. Like, maybe she put something in. I don't know, Anita.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone does know. I'm sure there's an explanation. I have questions, too. Can I ask some questions? Okay. From the very beginning of Star Trek Discovery, I have been asking the question, how is it that Spock, Leroy Johnson, has a foster sister that we, hardcore Star Trek fans, have never heard
I
of?
love that every single time we have a guest on, you have to bring this up again to get corroboration, even though nobody else fucking cares.
I will never, ever be okay with this, right? Because it just seems to me that at some point, I recognize why it happens, that they're doing something new. You can't go back in time and insert mention of Michael into past iterations of Star Trek. I get it. I'm just saying, how do they hold these contradictory things in their heads? Well, it turns out the explanation is the Sherlock sister explanation, which is that we just won't talk about it. We have decided we just will not talk about
I died.
Michael. We'll never mention her in public. Also, we're never going to mention Discovery or Discovery's mention. I had to get up and walk out of the room. I was like,
Ebony must feel so validated right now.
No, I felt betrayed because they had all this time to come up with a better explanation, and this is what they're giving us. Do you mean to tell me the colossal complexity of just eliminating a whole ship and its hundreds of crew members from everyone's sort of memories, that's the explanation you're going with? Okay, fine. Spock's family, you decided you're not going to talk about Michael Burnham, your foster sister, in public anymore, but apparently when you have family reunions over the potato salad, you'll whisper about Michael. Whatever. What about the rest of the people on that goddamn ship and their families? Do you don't think anyone is going to be like, I haven't seen James in like 6 months. Where's James? Oh yeah, where was your son James? He was aboard the Discovery. Oh yeah, the Discovery. What happened to the Discovery? We never hear from those people anymore. And then you ask questions, and there's a big conspiracy. What? No, this does not work. This is the Sherlock sister situation all over again, and I will not stand for it. I will not stand for it. Oh,
the most hand wavy shit, and I started laughing so hard when they did it because I was like, finally, you got your answer to your stupid ass question.
People have been tweeting at me. Yeah, people have been tweeting at me, and they're like, well, you got your answer. And I'm like, this is not the answer I wanted. This is not what I wanted.
Okay, well, I'm going to ruin the nice transition that you gave me by it, because I found another question that I wrote down that I think is a very important question.
Yeah.
How is it that they can build a one-of-a-kind time suit in an hour that's only ever been built once before, but they can't deactivate a fucking torpedo?
Listen, girl.
Ebony.
Listen. Anita.
Dude.
There was these questions we're never going to get the answers to.
I don't understand.
Never. And unfortunately, I was really upset about that because we lose Admiral Cornwall, right? And again, moments of heroism via self-sacrifice. I'm a sucker for that shit. It's my kryptonite. And yet, it didn't carry the weight that it should have because unfortunately, I don't know, and this is my just personal reaction. I have found Admiral Cornwall's presence this season, even though she's been in, it seems like virtually every episode, I have found her presence to be so ancillary and secondary and just less interesting as she was in season 1, such that if she had, remember when like we all thought she died in season 1, and I felt that shit. This time around, I saw other people feeling that shit, but I didn't feel it myself. And I was disappointed by that because I was like, this is a badass character.
Yeah.
And yet I'm left kind of shrugging in this moment because there's so much going on because she hasn't been allowed to be as interesting as she could be. And so her loss didn't affect me in the way that I don't know, felt it could have.
I agree with most of that. Although, I still judge her for sleeping with Lorca.
Oh, well, yeah.
She's got to die with that shame. I think that we should spend a minute talking about so this ends, let's just reiterate, it ends with Discovery and this crew and all of the main characters who we love that I'm sure will be back in season 3 going into the future. And we have corroboration that they made it. I really liked I did not like the fucking long ass monologue from Spock because the show needs to chill out on the goddamn monologues.
Oh God, yes. The logs,
but
stop it.
I like that Spock talked about how time is not linear necessarily, and that the time for them might be a few seconds where the time for him isn't. And so it took over 100 days for a signal to appear where he and Michael had discussed saying, I'm alive and I made it. So they made it theoretically, or she made it at least. So what? And then they ended it by being like, nobody's going to talk about Discovery or Michael Burnham. Which
for 10 minutes.
Which also nobody's going to talk about Michael Burnham, who started the Klingon War.
Exactly. You can't just erase her from existence. You can't mandate that. You can't legislate
so
that. So
my question is, what do we do? What are they going to do in season 3?
I honestly, I don't know. So presumably we will get the adventures of Discovery in the future. And so it might be kind of a Voyager situation, where they're like, we're alone out here. There's no Starfleet to back us up, or there is a Starfleet we have to get to. I have no idea. But we would be forgiven for thinking this was no longer the Discovery show. Because again, we end with Enterprise, right? And it's like, oh yeah, we have this cool crew on the Enterprise. What are they up to? The focus should not have been on them. Although speaking of that, I have to say, when earlier in the episode, Pike is talking to Saru and he's like, goodbye, my friends, my family. And I was like, I wonder if the crew of the Enterprise is like, well, fuck you too.
I had the same thought.
You've been captain of our goddamn ship for years, but that's your family. Get out of here. Go back there if you like them so much, But anyways, I honestly have no idea where season 3 is. I have to say,
hold on.
I'm excited.
Who was the so the Admiral was captaining Enterprise when we caught up with them. Who was captaining it the year that Pike had been gone?
Number 1.
Oh, okay.
Is number 1. Yeah. Who actually has been very cool. I liked her.
I totally. I find again, you all talked about last week is seeing the bridge and seeing the Enterprise was really cool. Even I, as someone who didn't watch TOS, I was like, oh man, this is rad. I did find the uniform contrast really jarring though. When you have Admiral Cornwall with her uniform and her stark straight center part hair, and then you have number 1 in her super 60s curls, it was I felt like it was a weird clashing of two different shows entirely. It made me uncomfortable. And I don't dislike either of the styles. I just feel like it didn't gel in the way that I think you felt like it did. For me.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it could be me sort of just embracing any visual reference to, kind of old school Star Trek. And so hand waving away any ruptures in the visual style. Because I did but I do agree with you that the crew of the Discovery, their uniforms are so, for lack of a better word, so modern, futuristic, angular, linear, right? So to go back to this kind of like mod version, as represented on the Enterprise with their outfits, I do think the crew and the costumer did an amazing job sort of updating it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yes.
There are moments where you're like, oh yeah, what they're referencing is insistently 60s.
Oh, totally.
And so that's going to look different. The color scheme, like the palette.
I loved,
with those kind of like tomato reds and, those really vibrant, like mustard yellows, like the color palette looks different than what we get on Discovery.
I definitely snickered when Giorgio was like, orange? Why orange? Yeah. And that the scene where she Pike is beaming away or whatever. She says it to Pike as they're separating. She's like, I'm actually Taryn from your mirror universe. And he's like, what? And I'm like, wait, what was that even?
I thought it was like a wink, wink, like, I know, but...
Yeah, but Pike was like, what the fuck? Like, he was so surprised. It felt like they were just trying to find ways for Giorgio to be deceptive and sneaky and funny.
I don't care. Giorgio, I love you. You can do, you can just eat Cheerios on screen.
But why wouldn't Pike know about the mirror universe?
Why? Ask why.
I know.
Anita.
Okay, fine. Do you want to do a hair report?
Yeah, I do. And I'm angry about this.
Great.
As if I wasn't angry enough to this episode. There is a moment in the medical bay, again, of Discovery where we're like, why are all you people here? Anyway, there's a moment in the medical bay where the head medical officer and two other Black women are in the background. They have amazing natural hair. It looked so good, so well shaped, moisturized. Them curls were popping. I was like, is this the same show that Michael Tanisha Burnham is on with that dollar store wig? Who is making these decisions? Why are they doing my girl like this? Like, clearly someone on that show knows how to deal with Black women's hair, but Michael is getting none of that love. And it led me back to this conversation that was popping off on Twitter a few weeks ago about so many Black people, when they are hired for jobs, have to do their hair and makeup themselves because the services that are necessary for them, the tools and the resources are simply not provided or accounted for. And so you have, and I think Gabrielle Union sparked off this conversation, but she was like, I have to come to set with my hair done. I can't trust that the hair and makeup people will even have the colors for me. We'll have someone who can work on highly textured hair, etc. And so this is money coming out of my pocket that does not have to come out of the pocket of a white actor, right? And so I'm wondering if those people that I'm celebrating, if they were just like, yeah, I can't trust the Star Trek hair crew to know what to do with my God-given coil. So I'm going to get this shit done on my own dime. But Michael, because, she's on set all the time, she has to deal with that wig. Either way.
Should we start a hashtag before they start shooting season 3 to, fix Michael's hair?
Yes. Yes, because the potential is so there. Like, sometimes the shape is awesome. I talked last week about how, the Luke Perry, it can be there. Y'all, we can do this. You got to fix the back. It's the back that's the problem.
The back is so bad.
It doesn't sit right. It just doesn't sit right.
I don't like the style at all, but, I see, yes, it's not good.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Man, this is it.
I feel like we've taken a journey.
What?
I said, I feel like we've taken a journey.
We have. I did not. You know how mad I was about doing this season of the podcast because I didn't want to watch the show again. And there were some episodes that I just it really. I don't know. I have a lot of feelings because I feel like the episodes that were so strong were strong enough for me to hang on and be like, I think I might like this show. But if I actually went back and listened to each episode, like, there aren't that many. It's just that they were so good that it made me want to like the show better. And there's so many pieces and characters that I really enjoy that, like, I came around a lot in this season, even though I still, when people ask me if it's any good, I hedge a lot.
I unreservedly recommend it to people because I let them know it is a steaming tureen of banana soup, but I do find it entertaining. And so if you go into it sort of trying to nickel and dime the physics of it to get granular with, script holes or whatever, you will be unsatisfied. But if you just sort of surrender to the air, the Star Trek will take you to fun places. And I have been happy to ride this train with you for season 2. I honestly am excited about season 3.
I'm really curious about season 3.
Yeah. And I can't wait to be spoiled on it, to hear, folks' theories and, read up on what's being done. I'm in it to win it now. And I can't wait to make you do this podcast with me for season 3.
All right. So here's the thing is we haven't actually discussed this, but if our schedules allow, I would totally do season 3 with you as well. So keep this podcast in your podcast subscriptions, and hopefully we'll be back when season 3 comes back. But also, I might try to convince Ebony to do a couple one-offs about some other Star Trek-y things as
I would love it.
The year goes by, and I think it would be fun to rewatch some old shows. And we have this constant debate about shows, and I'm like, I haven't watched Voyager in a long ass fucking time, so it might be worth us like diving into some Voyager and Deep Space Nine and seeing where we land on those as a rewatch.
What if we both went back in and completely swapped positions?
That would be fucking hilarious.
It would be, right? And just had to walk back everything we've said. It won't happen, but it
won't
could.
happen. But here's the thing is I feel like I've tried to watch Deep Space Nine several times, and I can't get past like season 2 or 3. So I'm like, maybe I need to just start on season 3 because I already know the characters.
Yeah, exactly.
I might do that.
Exactly. It's like when I introduce people to the new Who, there are certain episodes that I start them on, and I think a lot of people do this, right? So as fucking whack as he has revealed himself to be, Stephen Moffat could write the hell out of an episode.
Dude,
and so
he wrote some of my favorite episodes.
Right. Like if you just tell people like, okay, watch like, Family of Blood or Blink, right? You'll either be drawn in or you won't. Exactly.
I mean, he created River Song, I think.
Yeah.
Who was like my favorite Who character.
I just like he should never have been made showrunner, but as a writer, he could pull magic out of a hat. In the same way, I think, we will pick and choose episodes of DS9 or Voyager and be like, this is the best of what it was. This is what it, was at its very best. And then once you, are kind of in it, then it's like, okay, well now you'll be more apt to forgive the episodes where the show stumbles.
I feel like that happens a lot. And, that's the thing is, as I think we have less tolerance for bad first seasons for a lot of reasons. TV has gotten a lot better. It's also become a lot harder to get your show renewed if you have a shitty first season. And that was something that people kept reminding me when I was like, season 1 of Discovery was garbage. And it was garbage for a lot of reasons, for me, in terms of like the pressure of a Star Trek show. But like Farscape, one of my favorite shows, is most of the first season is fucking garbage. I was dragged. I was dragged through watching those. I tried to give up. And like once you hit that line where the show actually finds itself, it's brilliant. And then if you go back and rewatch those episodes, like they're fine because you already have an emotional connection to the characters.
Yeah. And because, ultimately Crace is going to be on the run and the Scorpio is going to be the big bad. And you're like, Scorpius is the baddest ass.
I really want to do a Farscape podcast. I know I've said that a million times, but I think I just want an excuse to rewatch it as if I need an excuse for that.
I have been rewatching it. It's on Amazon Prime. Like, I don't have the Blu-rays or anything. I've just been rewatching it on Amazon Prime. And I'm like, this is fun. Love it.
All right. Do you have a theme song for us?
How do I say goodbye to what we've had? The good times were... Oh, man. I always forget to check the lyrics before I do this.
Your theme song.
Anyways, you know where I was headed.
Shit, Ebony.
you know where I was headed.
I do. All right, y'all. Thank you for taking this season-long journey with us on Star Trek Discovery. I am sincerely, really curious about what's going to happen in season 3. So send us your theories, man. I'd love to hear what people think is going to happen. You can find me at Anita Sarkeesian, and you can find Ebony at Ebony Astor, or whatever handle she's going to make.
Dollar Store Wigs.
Sorry, say that again.
Dollar Store Wigs.
Yep. So yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Stay subscribed. We will release some little special things here and there about Star Trek. And yeah, man, this is sad. I'm actually, last season I was like, oh, get me the fuck out of here. And now I'm I'm so sad. I feel like we have this lovely community and I enjoy doing this with you. So thanks to all of our guests. We've had some awesome guests this season, and we will definitely make it a point to do that again in the future. I think they've really added a lot of perspective and experience to how we look at and how we think about this show and what it means to all of us. If you enjoyed this show and if you want more of us, you can check out our main show every Wednesday on Feminist Frequency Radio. And you can help us keep making all of our podcasts by heading over to patreon.com/femfreak. And you might be able to convince Ebony and Carolyn to resuscitate Cinema Ball, which is their podcast about movies, which is very good.
No way. People need a break from me. What needs to happen is you and Caro need to go back to something the way that you did for Halt and Catch Fire.
Yeah, we do. Carol and I got to find our thing. Yeah. All right. Well, if you want to keep up with us and join our community, please do that at patreon.com/femfreak. If you want to rate and review us on iTunes, we'd love that too. Big thanks go out to our producer, Taylor Simmons, Sarah Norales for technical support, and art by Ray Abelar. Bye.
Bye, everybody.